Hi everyone! Today I'm going to show you how I made this villa cookie with royal icing transfers. I started this design using an edible marker and sketching out the door frame, the window, and where the sidewalk meets the building. Then I started flooding in those pieces. So I flooded in my door, I flooded in the base of the building to be a creamish color, and then I flooded in the sidewalk to be white. Last for flooding, I framed out the door in white and then did the same with the window. As this was drying, I started working on some of my transfers. I used the scale of the cookie as a guide for how tall I wanted the tree to be. I knew I wanted it to be a little bit bigger than the building to make it big and billowy. And I should mention, I am piping this directly onto some parchment paper. Next, still using the cookie for some scale, I piped a little front porch step, some rocks in various shapes and sizes, and then this cute little planter. This round of transfers I let dry overnight, but the next round of transfers I did speed up the process of drying, and I will explain how I did that in just a few minutes. I should have mentioned also, I piped everything in white so I didn't have to mix a bunch of icing colors. So that means I had to go back and paint everything, but it was a lot faster and simpler of a process because I would have had to paint on top of the icing colors anyway. So here I'm using a mix of brown with a little bit of white, and then I'm adding a lighter brownish white and sort of blending up into the tree. Pieces that should be a little bit more shaded are darker, and then pieces that are in the sunlight should be a little bit lighter. And then on the planter, I used the same color from the tree and painted the top half brown. And then I painted the bottom half white just to give it some of those textured lines. I got the idea for this cookie from a poster I found on Pinterest. And in the poster, there was a lot of shading. So I used some black food coloring, just a little bit, and blended that into the base of the building. Once I had enough shading, I was ready to lay my royal icing transfers. So I used a bit of royal icing to pipe on the back and then gently placed them on top of the cookie. And then I added a little bit more detail to the door. I piled up the rocks around the base of the tree and also by the planter. And then added just a bit more detail around the frame of the door. I started piping some leaves and flowers directly onto the cookie and the base of the tree transfer. And on this bottom base, I'm just doing somewhat of a squiggly line pattern. Then I went back to my parchment and I made a pretty large mass of squiggly lines as leaves. These were crazy and all over the place and actually kind of fun to do. And then on top, I piped a few pink spots for flowers. And once the base layer was dry, I painted over top with a little bit of black food coloring, keeping in mind the shadows on the base. I did something similar for the planter and piped a plant directly onto the base of the house. And then once that was dry, I went over top of it again with some black food coloring to make a shadow. I'm also piping a mass of leaves that I'm going to add right on top of my planter as a transfer. I have a dehydrate mode on my oven, so I put the parchment paper directly into the oven. I used the lowest setting, and on my oven it was 100 degrees. And I kept these in there for maybe about 20 minutes or so until they were firmed up. As you can see, they are very delicate, so just be careful when you're popping them off of the parchment paper. I followed the same process and added these onto the cookie with a little bit of royal icing. For final touches, I painted a bit more of the leaves with the light black food coloring. And then I piped more flowers and leaves on top, but this time did them as little dots. And the same process for this little guy. Then I added some shadow to the background between the pot and the porch using some of the black food coloring. And I did the same for behind the tree. For the rocks, I used some of the Sugar Art Elite Color Black and just dusted it atop to give it the look that rocks have, you know? And the villa cookie is complete. I went through this pretty quickly and made it just for fun, but was thinking of redoing it or possibly turning it into a class. So if you're interested, I would love to hear from you in the comments. And as always, thank you for following along.